Hello, everyone. Welcome back to my channel. Thank you for joining me in this live section, guys. Stay with me in this live section as I have a lot of things to say. So, you guys know that in the NNAMDI Kanu's last court section, his legal team filed no case submission, meaning that the SS witness has brought enough evidence, and then none can actually prove he's a terrorist. So they found no case submission, and then the court had to um give 18th July for the next court section. And that 18th July is the most important date, or is going to like influence Nigeria, like Nigerian government, because that 18th of July is going to determine a lot of things. Now, here's what will happen. Now, if you're new to this channel, do well to hit that subscribe button, like, also put down your thoughts under the comment section. What's let's talk about it. So now, here are the four possible outcomes that will happen on the 18th of July. Everyone is excited. Everyone cannot wait for that day. People are excited. People cannot even wait for 18th of July. Now, let me just tell you guys the four things that might happen on the 18th of July. One is that the court might uphold the prosecution case. This means that this would lead to the formal continuation of the full trial on the substantive charges. Yes, they might continue the case on the substantive charges. Now, that's one. This is one thing that would happen. And then two is the court might strike out some charges. They might strike out some, charges. And then you know what it means. They might strike out what's it called? They might strike out terrorism charges, because this is the one of the weak. Is now weak because they can't prove he's a terrorist. When you call someone a thief, you actually you need to prove. You need to have that proof before you go ahead to call someone a thief. You not call someone a thief or else he has stolen your thing. It's not possible. There's no way you call someone a thief when he has not stolen your item. So now they must, you know, show that Mazen Khan is a terrorist, or else the charges will be struck out. So one of the second thing that might happen is that the courts might strike out some charges of Mazen Kanu. You know what that means? So the third thing that might happen is, sorry for that little network glitch. The third thing that might happen is that the courts might dismiss the case entirely. That because we entirely dismiss the case. This would end the trial if the case is found to be fatally flawed, effectively, silencing prosecution on these specific charges. Now, the court adjourns indefinitely. The court will adjourn it indefinitely. The judge might postpone the decision for more time, extending the legal limbo. Now, another thing that might happen is that the court might adjourn the case indefinitely. That means the judge might postpone the decision for more time, extending the legal limbo. Now, we're going to break everything down. Stay with me. Now, why is this June 18 hearing so pivotal? Now, this is it. It's not about innocency of Martin the Kanu's guilty. This will come later, but it's about the pure test whether the legal process so far has been valid. If the judge finds procedural errors, example improper filing, insufficient evidence, it could waive the trial onwards or stop it entirely. So now, July 18, 2025, formal hearing before the judge. Masnam can appear in court, and then a written judgment is expected, typically within days or weeks, explaining which of the four parts of the cause has been chosen. Now, if the case advance, the full criminal trial will proceed. If not, there are various legal options: appeal, refi, charges, or complete end. These are the outcomes. So now we're going to break everything down for you guys to understand. And now, stay with me. If you're new to this channel, hit the subscribe button, like and share this video. So drop your thoughts under the comment section. Now, thank you for joining my channel. Thank you. Stay with me as I have a lot of things to say. Now, let's dive into deep let's dive deep into the legal drama that has captured global attention. That's the trial of Mazi Nnamdi Kanu, the leader of the indigenous people of Biafra IPOB. On July 18th, 2025, the Federal High Court under the Chief Judge will decide on what is called a no case submission. Some of you don't know what this means. So this means that we know what this means. What are the possible outcomes, and how does this single court day affect the future of Biafran agitation, the Nigerian government, and Kanu's own fate? Now, sit tight as I will break all these things down for you guys to understand. Now, first, let's understand. There are some people that don't even know who Mazi Nnamdi Kanu is. Let me take you back a little bit. Now, Mazi Nnamdi Kanu is a British Nigerian political activist who founded the indigenous people of Biafra IPOB, a movement calling the secession of the southeast region of Nigeria to form an independent Biafran state. For years now, I'm taking you guys back. Kanu has mobilized millions through Radio Biafra and mass protest. He was first arrested in 2015, granted bail in 2017, but fled Nigeria after military stormed his home in 2021. He was rearrested abroad under controversial circumstances, which IPOB and many legal experts say was an extraordinary rejection. That means kidnapping someone across borders without due process. Now, since then, he has been detained and his legal team has fought the charges, mostly related to treasonable felony and incitement. Now, after multiple court sessions, the IPOB legal team filed what is called a no case submission. This means that, let me just explain to you guys what this thing means. Now, it's like telling the judge, you all know the prosecution has failed to bring enough evidence to justify dragging me through a full trial. So, why should we waste the court's time? Dismiss this case. Now, this is what a no case submission is. Now, it means a constitutional right for any defendant. If the judge agrees, the case is over at this level. If the judge disagrees, then the full trial continues. So July 18th is not the final verdict on whether Kanu is guilty or not, or innocent. It's about whether the prosecution has even done its homework well enough to proceed. That is just it. Now, these are the four possible outcomes that will happen on the 18th of July. Now, I'm going to break everything down, although I've mentioned it earlier. Now, number one thing that might happen is that the court says that the court might say the case is established, or the court might say case established. It means full trial must continue. This means the judge is convinced that the prosecution has presented at least some evidence that needs to be tested in a full trial. Now, this is what will happen if the court says case established. Kanu remains in detention. The case goes into full trial mode. Witnesses will be cross-examined, new evidences can be brought in, then the trial could take months, even years. That's to tell you, this is what the federal government wants, to keep Kanu in court, possibly to weaken IPOB momentum. Now, they feel keeping Kanu in court is going to do them any favor, but guys, it's actually causing more problem, and you're actually doing IPOB the favor, because it's going to, like, intensify IPOB agitation. There'll be mass protests. It won't do them any favor. See, like I always say, if Nigerian government knows that keeping that man there is going to be a problem, trust me, they will not keep him there for a second. They will not. They don't know they don't know what this Mazi Nnamdi Kanu's illegal detention is going to bring to them in the future. Time will come when they will realize what they have done is very wrong. Now, number one, remember I said that the court might say case has established, meaning that the trial will still continue, the full trial will still continue. Now, another thing that might happen is the court might strike out some charges. Sometimes a judge might say some parts of this charge makes no sense, but others are baseless. So they can throw out the weak charges but allow the stronger ones to continue. Just like terrorism charge now. Everybody knows that it's baseless, like it's weak, because for over 5 years now, they don't even have enough evidence to prove that Mazi Nnamdi Kanu is a terrorist. So he's not guilty at all. He's actually innocent, because in every court in Nigeria, if someone is arrested, the person is innocent until he's proven guilty. That is what we know, until he's proven guilty. So now, the judge might just say some part of this case makes no or makes sense. Let's put it makes sense, but others are baseless, and then they can just throw out the weak charges but allow the stronger ones to continue. Now, what happened next? Kano will still face trial, but with fewer accusations. This is what will happen if they strike out some charges of Kano on the 18th of July. Kano will still face trial, but with fewer accusation. This narrows the scope of the trial. It could mean lighter punishment if convicted. Now, for IPOP supporters, this can feel like partial victory. Yeah, the more charges dismissed, the weaker the government's case. Now, that is another thing that can happen. Now, the third thing that might happen is the court dismisses the case entirely. This is what Kano's lawyer are pushing for: total dismissal. If the judge says there's absolutely no case to answer, the prosecution wasted the time, then Kano should be released immediately, because the constitution says you can't detain someone with no valid charges. The federal government can appeal, but they can't keep him locked up under the same charges. That is just it. For IPOB, this is like a dream come true. It means Kanu will work freely, likely return to active leadership, and also return abroad where he came from. Now, that is another thing that will happen. Another thing that will happen again is that the courts might adjourn the case on the 18th of July. Now, this is common in Nigeria. This is a way of delaying cases, when they know the truth, though. You see, Nigerian government will not adjourn to jail someone, but they will adjourn to release someone. Now, the chief judge might say this case is too sensitive. I need more time to study submission. But you guys know that there's no, like, he doesn't need any time. If he knows what he's doing, he should, in fact, if he knows the law better, he should even release Mazi Nnamdi Kanu. He should even know right from time that there is no case to answer. He should know that right from time that there is no case to answer. So the hearing is adjourned to a new, might be adjourned to a new days. And this is what happened. Kanu still remains in detention. Tension remains so high. Lawyers, IPOB members, and the government returns to court again. So let's talk about why this thing happens. I'm done talking about the four outcomes of what might happen, the outcomes of what might happen on the 18th of July. So now, no matter which outcome happens, the effect will be huge. That is one thing you need to know. If the case continues, IPOB agitation may intensify. If it's dismissed, it sets a legal precedent about unlawful detention and extraordinary retention. If it's delayed, the frustration may trigger fresh protests or sit-at-home orders. For the FG, dismissing the case could be seen as weakness. So the pressure to keep Kanu detained is politically as much as legal. This single court date could influence the 2027 election, regional stability and international human rights debate. So you guys know that this 18th of July is going to influence Nigeria so much because it has a lot of effects on Nigerian government. Yes, it has. One of the reasons why they don't want to release Kano is because of Kano is like a game spoiler for them. I'm telling you the truth. It's like a game spoiler for them. Now, take a look at what this man said concerning, what is happening in this country. Let's just know that what is happening in this country recently is because of, Mazi Nnamdi Kanu is still in detention. I believe if they free that man, they will not be hearing anything about Boko Haram or this. Just take a look.
All of us, including my humble self standing here, all the politicians in northern Nigeria, in the last 15 years, we should be held accountable to what is happening in northern Nigeria in terms of poverty, unemployment, lack of education, lack of security. As of 2016, some of us that live here in Kaduna, and Northwest in particular, were not aware of anything called banditry, kidnappings, or insurgency. If there's anybody here who is aware of that, can also attest to the fact that as of 2016, not 2019, 16, there was nothing like kidnappings even in Benogwari. I can tell you that for a fact. What went wrong?
Come, let me tell you the major problem of Nigeria. The major problem of Nigeria is northern part of the country. Northern Nigeria are the major problem of Nigeria. If you want to see conflict, northern Nigeria. Rape, northern Nigeria. Refugees, northern Nigeria. Thieves. In fact, if you want to see thieves stealing on an industrial scale, come to northern Nigeria. Thieves fully engaged in primitive accumulation come to northern Nigeria. In fact, I am from northern Nigeria. I am proud to be an indigenous of Borno State. I am from Borno State. I am proud to be an indigenous of Borno State, from the northern part of the country. But I want to tell you that the major problem of this country is northern part of the country. These are people, if you want to see hatred, if you want to see conflict, if you want to see nepotism, cronyism, any other thing you can label. In fact, northern, if you carve out southern part of the country from Nigeria and give it 10 years, they are going to be recognized among community of nations because of the development they will have. 70% of the people who govern this country are from the northern part of the country. But if you want to see hunger, starvation, and any other thing, it's from the north. Why? We are the major problem. But our people doesn't want us to be speaking the truth. And that is why we continue to somersault in this kind of issue.
We have had a northern president from Katsina for 8 years. Before he came, we did not have a single IDP. All our local governments were safe. Now Katsina State, 22 out of 34 local governments. That is 65% of Katsina. It's under siege. Borno State is more secure and safer than Katsina. That we had a president who is from there. That is the failing of us northerners. We need to look at ourselves. And now here we are. We have a leadership. We have a vice president number 2 who is from the north. We have a Speaker of the House who is number 4, who is from the north. We have an SGF who is from the north. We have the senior most military officer who is from the north. We have all the ministers of defense from the north. We have the Minister of Police from the north. We have the National Security Advisor from the north. President Bola Ahmed Tinubu will look at us and say, you guys have no excuse not to bring peace to your land. So it is up to us to look at ourselves in the mirror, we northerners, especially those in government, and lock the door and say, people, how do we take care of these problems? President Bola Ahmed Tinubu from the southwest cannot come and bring peace to us. It is us that must bring peace to ourselves. And it is not the military that will bring peace. I've said it again and again, banditry can never be won on the battlefield. We're just putting the military to clean up after this mess. They're everywhere. So northern leadership, all of us, must come in, lock the door and sit down and see how we can bring peace to our land. 15 years of Boko Haram, 9 years of banditry. Are we going to continue this forever? I have friends in the United States.
So guys, you heard what that man said. Imagine how many years of banditry. And you know that they labeled Kanu as the one that is causing violence in Nigeria. They said he's the problem of Nigeria. Yes, they called him any small thing that is happening, even in Sokoto, they will say it is IPOB, it is NNAMDI Kanu, he's the problem of Nigeria. You can see what is happening. Even the North have come to say that, that's the problem of Nigeria is from the North. You can see that Martin Kanu is actually innocent of all the accusations. That is why even till now they cannot even point out something that he has done. They cannot. Trust me, guys. They cannot even say this is what Mazlum Kanu did. They called him a terrorist. They cannot prove he's a terrorist. What is the full definition of a terrorist? A terrorist must be armed. Fulani bad guys, these are the these are the true terrorists in Nigeria. These are the true terrorists in Nigeria. Not even, Mazi Nnamdi Kanu. You should know that a terrorist must be armed. And for so long now, they have not even showed any weapon or give evidence that is directly ordering for Mazi Nnamdi Kanu ordering for any violence at all. So now that is just it. So we just pray on the 18th of July, the outcome that might happen is that Mazi Nnamdi Kanu will be released entirely. They will end the case and then he'll be released. So if you're new to this channel, hit the subscribe button, like and share this video. So this case of Mazi Nnamdi Kanu, the IPOB leader who has defied the federal government for years. On July 18th, 2025, the court decided if he has any case to answer at all. The outcome could free him, keep him in prison, or push Nigeria into fresh tension. Now, We're going to break everything down. Many people know Kano is the voice many people know Kanu as the voice of Radio Biafra, but his journey started long before that. He was once an ordinary activist in London, where IPOB formed around 2012. By 2015, he was arrested for the first time when he entered Nigeria, charged with treason, incitement, and running an unlicensed radio station. After he got bail, he fled when soldiers raided his family home in Abia State, killing several people. That event alone radicalized more young people in the East. In 2021, the Nigerian government extraordinarily redemptioned him from Kenya back to Nigeria, a move that international human rights groups still condemn till today. His detention has led to endless sit-at-home protests economic it has led to endless sit-at-home protests, economic loss in the southeast, and the growing international calls for a political solution rather than a military one. Now, so when people say no case submission, they are not just talking about one man, they're talking about the bigger fight for self-determination, freedom of speech, and fair trial. Many people think once you're arrested, you might be guilty. No, in the courts or in the law, it's the opposite. You're innocent until you're proven guilty beyond reasonable doubt. That is just it. A no man case submission means the defense says, we have listened to all your defense. You guys know that in the last court section, a no case submission was filed. A no case submission was filed, meaning that it means that the the defense is saying that they have listened to all the DSS evidence and then they cannot still prove the basics. So why waste our time? This is what they are just saying. Judges love it because it saves time if there is no valid case. But it's rare for judges to fully dismiss political sensitive cases. So this ruling tests the independence of the judiciary. Also, it pressures the prosecution. They must prove proper arrest procedures, admissible evidence, credible witnesses, clear chain of custody for any proof. So now, courts, these are the possible outcomes. Just like I mentioned earlier, I'm going to be breaking it down for you guys to understand. Now, these are the possible outcomes that might happen. Now, the courts may rule case to answer. Like they might just say there's no case to answer. If this happens, the government legal team will be celebrated for doing their job, at least on paper. IPOB will feel the system is reached. The court might just rule that there's actually a case there's a case to answer, and then if this happens, the court's legal team will be celebrated for doing their job, at least on paper. IPOB will feel the system is reached. Kanu's lawyers will likely appeal immediately, dragging on the trial. Supporters might even protest, increasing security tension in the southeast. Now, if this case drags into election season, politicians might use it as bargaining chips for votes on negotiation. Now, court now, the court, another thing that might happen is number one, I said that the court might say there's case to answer and then the continuation will continue. Now, another thing that might happen is that courts will strike out some charges. This is where things get interesting because many believe the terrorism charges is the weakest because IPOB was never formally designated as a terrorist organization in the court. It was done by executive fiat. If the court removes terrorism, only treason remains, a harder charge to prove without violence evidence. That is just it. The government then appears partially defeated but still in control. This might open a window for out of court settlements. Some elders and governors have suggested political solutions if the hard shares charge are dropped. Now, the dream, this is in the courts might also, dismiss the entire case of NNAMDI KANU. This is the third thing that might happen, and this is a dream come true for all IPOB members. It means the extraordinary edition of this means the extraordinary edition is legally declared unlawful by implication, and then it restores KANU's image as a victim of injustice. It could embolden more secessionists talk if not handled wisely by the federal government. Now, international groups like Amnesty International will amplify this. Country that value due process may start pressuring Nigeria to respect human rights more strictly. Now, another thing that might happen is that courts might delay Yes, court my court might delay this thing. Yes, adjournments are common. Some say it's to buy time for backdoor negotiation. Politicians use adjournment to study the public mood. It frustrates IPOB, increasing tensions and prolongs it at some others. So now prolonged tension with a clear verdict keeps the Southeast economy hostage. Transport rates could all get disrupted every time court dates comes up. Now, this is one thing they should know. Let us know that these are the truths. International reputation. If the court mishandles this kind of case, Nigeria's image will suffer it globally. Investors don't like instability. Yes, they don't like instability. Some fractions without IPOB, some fractions without IPOB want Kanu free. Others fear his return will expose betrayal and power struggles inside the movement. Security chief sees Kanu's continued detention as leverage. Once he's free, they lose funding justification for operation in the southeast. Governors in the east secretly want him free so they can claim their region, but so they can calm their region, but publicly they pretend neutrality to avoid federal backlash. That is just it. That is just it. So now, so the biggest question everyone is asking is, will justice be done or delayed or denied? This isn't just about Mazinam Khan, it's about whether Nigeria respects her own law, whether the courts can stand up for to politics, whether the cries of the Southeast will be heard or silenced yet again. Now, many people, you know, will think that this is just like a normal case, but it's not a normal case. It has to do with the world now. It's not more a Nigeria issue. It has gone beyond Nigeria. It's not a continental issue. So guys, let me know your thoughts under the comment section. Let me know what you're saying about this. Now, these are the points you need to know. The no case submission test. If the prosecution followed due process, if the prosecution followed due process, the no case omission tests if the prosecution followed due process from arrest to evidence presentation. Now, if the court finds even more major flaw like forged documents or improper witnesses, it can collapse the case. Kanu's extraordinary rejection from Kenya is still before the African Commission on Human and People's Rights. Nigerian law forbids using evidence obtained through illegal means. So anything gathered through unlawful retention could be struck out. The court decision can be appealed by either side. So July 18th is not automatically the end. Even if the case is dismissed, FJ can refine new charges if they gather fresh evidence. Now, Kanu's legal team wants the court to declare his rearrest in Kenya illegally, which strengthens their no case argument. If the judge rules for dismissal, the DSS must obey immediately unless an appeal stays execution. Lawyers can say this hearing tests the independence of the Nigerian judiciary more than any normal trial. Kanu's lawyers have threatened to go to the International Criminal Court if they suspect a biased ruling. Now, the trial outcome affects the 2027 general election narrative in Southeast. Some politicians secretly hope Kanu remains in detention so they can stay relevant as bridge negotiators. Releasing Kanu could weaken the North's hold on security excuses for military presence in the East. Now, the federal government fears that freeing Kanu could spark fresh calls for referendum. Some Southeast governors prefer a political solution but fear open support. They fear open support could attract federal backlash. They fear Aso Rock. The court ruling may encourage or weaken other separatist group like Yoruba Nation agitators. Politicians may use the ruling to negotiate alliance deal or vote for 2027. So guys, no one knows what will happen on the 18th of July. Is either number one, Kanu will be freed entirely. Two, some cases will be struck out. Three, they might adjourn the case. Four, they might start the case, like the judge might say there are some sensitive evidence that we need to look about and the case will continue. That is just the four things that might happen. No one is sure. So 18th of July doesn't mean his release is automatic. No, they might even, you know how Nigerian government is, they can put more effort because they know that Mazi Nnamdi Kanu is like a game spoiler to them. So anything can happen. So guys, I believe you to come back here, as I have a lot, guys. I have a lot to share with you guys. I have a lot. So guys, please come back here, and on the 18th of July, I'm gonna tell you guys everything that will happen in court on that day. So don't miss any of my live section, especially on the 18th of July. I have a lot to tell you guys. So guys, thank you for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.